Welcome to Everyday Cooking with Ann. Today we're going to be making a brown sugar honey glazed ham that's very similar to the honey baked ham you buy at the honey baked store, except it's going to be a lot less expensive. So watch me make this ham and you can try this for your Easter dinner as well. It's going to be great. Let me show you the ham that I have. I have actually purchased an applewood smoked spiral sliced ham at Costco, and this is a very good high quality ham, and of course it's spiral sliced so that we can go ahead and drip all of our yummy crusty sauce on it. I'm preparing it in a aluminum pan, kind of like I do my turkey. If you've seen my turkey video, I like to use aluminum here with aluminum foil on it so it's very tightly put together. I'm going to be putting this in the oven at 325 degrees, and I'm going to cook it for 10 minutes per pound. This ham is exactly 10 pounds, so we're going to be cooking it for about an hour and 40 minutes at 325. The thing about a fully cooked ham is you have to be very careful, because if you overcook your ham, and I've done this many times, so I'm experienced at this, all the yummy juices will run out of the ham and you're going to have a dry ham. And so we're going to be very careful watching this, that it doesn't overcook. This still feels kind of cold to me because I bought it in cold weather, but that's why you want to have it as close to room temperature as possible, so that you're putting it in the oven without having it too cold on the inside, not enough cold on the outside. So we are going to do, like I said, at 325 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and put my top on here. I'm putting the shiny side down so it doesn't reflect away. And I'm going to crimp my aluminum foil right around the edge of the ham. As you can see, I put the ham face down where the spirals are. I'm going to be checking this ham, the temperature, internal temperature, which should be about 110 to 120 degrees at the most, at about an hour and 20 minutes. Okay, and then we will check, and if it needs to go in a little bit more, we will. The second stage of the ham will be glazing for an extra hour after that. My ham is baking. I'm making a glaze. This is a very short part of the recipe. It doesn't take very long at all. Let me show you what goes on in the glaze. And I'm going to heat this through on my stove until it's all melted. You want this to be a nice sticky glaze so it'll stick to the ham slices while it's being basted next time we get going. Okay, so I have a cup of brown sugar and an entire cup of honey. This is going to melt together, and I just have it on low heat right now. And we're going to put a few spices in here too. I'm going to put about 1 tablespoon of, and I'm not even going to measure it. Let me just shake this up a little bit. I'm going to eyeball it. So spicy brown mustard, about 1 tablespoon. I'm just going to eyeball that. I'm going to be putting in a 1/2 of a teaspoon of cloves. Maybe not quite, it's pretty spicy. Not quite a 1/2 teaspoon. And then I'm going to put another 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Okay, that's going to be our glaze recipe. I have this other glaze that came with the ham. I may add some of it to it later if depending on what I think about this glaze. If we need more glaze or something like that, I may add a little bit to that. But we don't want to add a lot of liquid to this, because once your ham is cooked, it's going to start having a little bit of liquid in it already when it bakes through. This is going to just melt here a little bit. I'm going to let it sit on the stove until our ham comes out of the oven, and then we'll be taking our ham and the aluminum foil off, and we're going to be baking it for another hour while we baste it with this glaze, this amazing glaze. Okay, we just took our ham out of the oven. It's been baking at 325 degrees. It's exactly 10-pound ham. And it's at 325 degrees for 1 hour and 20 minutes. So, or 25 minutes. And now, let me just show you quickly what our glaze looks like. It's been sitting on the stove. We melted it. By the way, I added about maybe 3 tablespoons of fresh orange juice to this, and it improved the flavor 100%. Not that it wasn't good already, but it was really good. So what I'm going to do is take this ham right now and start just basting inside these spiraled sections of meat. And if you can look inside the pan, we don't have that many juices. That means it didn't bleed out too much juice. So that means most of the juice in this ham is inside this ham, not outside of the ham, down in the pan. Okay, now what's going to happen with this ham now, once we put it back in the oven, it's going to start crystallizing and glazing all the way through. I think you really do need a helper to do this so that it stays put together. I think that little knobby thing was holding the ham together. And glaze all over the top, so we're going to move it right now. We're going to add the rest of this on top of this ham. So this is a good reason why you want to make your glaze ahead of time and let it sit on the stove until the ham comes out, because you want it to kind of get all syrupy, crystallized, a little, and not too thin as it goes back on here. Okay, now what you want to do is you do not want to put your lid back on the ham, because what we're trying to do is make this ham so that it starts crisping up with the brown sugar and the honey. So I'm going to put it back in. This is supposed to go in for about 1 more hour at 325, but I'm going to be basting it as I go along. I'm going to be taking the juices out of here and putting it on top of the ham about every 15 minutes for the next hour. Took our ham out of the oven. We checked the internal temperature of the ham, and it was at about 120. You don't want to go beyond that. We actually put the ham in and basted it for about 37 minutes, and we decided to check it, and we're glad that we did, because otherwise it would have been overcooked. So any ham recipe that you have that says bake it at 100, bake it at 15 minutes per pound is going to be too much. It's not going to turn out as tasty as this one. So what I'm making right now, these are some of the pan juices from the ham and the glaze that we used. And I'm just heating it up right now. And as soon as this comes to a boil, I've made a little slurry here out of a 1/4 cup of water and a couple of tablespoons of cornstarch, not flour. And when this comes to a boil, I'm going to thicken this glaze. And I'm going to use this as a glaze on top of our ham pieces that you're going to put on your plate when you're ready to serve. And we're going to put some on top of the whole ham. This is about to come to a boil, and I'm adding my cornstarch slurry. Meanwhile, I did add a little bit of this glaze seasoning mix that came with the ham. It adds a little bit more flavor to it. Just so you know, I did add also a little bit of, this is not the La Victoria, this is actually fresh, homemade squeezed orange juice. I used probably a 1/4 cup of that in the actual glaze too.